Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I'm starting off the program this morning with a health warning, and I want you to pay attention, please. It involves the shampoo that runs down your body when you shower with it. It's a warning to all of us. I use shampoo in the shower like many people, and when I wash my hair, the shampoo runs down my whole body. And printed very clearly on the shampoo label is this warning: for extra body and volume. No wonder I've been gaining weight. Well, listen, I've got a problem that's solved. When you start showering with Dawn dish soap instead, because the label reads, dissolves fat that is otherwise difficult to remove. Problem solved. Good morning. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Morning. Oh, good morning on a Tuesday, and I hope it's a nice day for you and your family. And I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call and get on the route service, 734-6969. And right now, let's have our Pledge of Allegiance person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, Rotten. How are you?
I'm rottener than rotten.
All right. Give us a pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Always a pleasure to have you call, my dear friend. God bless you and your wife, and have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to the weather right now. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And remember, Tuesdays are Tile Tuesdays. They've got everything over there at Cheney Flooring and Home Design: carpet, flooring, tiles, kitchen construction, home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home. Please get a hold of them today. Number to call, 678-6945. And remember, look for the blue door at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Really nice folks. Here's Gina with the weather.
Weather for today, you better enjoy it, because tomorrow and especially on Thursday, a completely different story. Expecting sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, high of 57 with an overnight low of 32. Tomorrow, more clouds are going to be moving into the valley, high of 60 with an overnight low of 41. Thursday is going to be the game changer, at least right now anyway. We're looking at rain showers, and winds are going to be picking up out of the west right around 20 miles an hour for Thursday, high of 51 with an overnight low of 34. For Friday, it's going to be a little bit better. Partly cloudy, winds right around the southwest at 15 miles an hour, high of 55 with an overnight low of 40. And then for Saturday, partly cloudy and 64. That's your weather forecast for Zebeth.
Thank you. She does a wonderful job. Thank you, Cheney Flooring and Home Design at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door or give them a call at 678-6945. Hey, don't forget on Thursday, the sale that works for you. Sale time, 10 o'clock o'clock every Thursday. Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. They'll bring down the gavel and say, hey, let them in, boys. Merv May, Cade Rogge, and Lance Udy. And the number to call for sale information, consignment information, 678-9411. Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You be sure and give them a call and stop in on Thursday. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Zeb. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I got a little bit of bad news or good news, whichever way you want to look at it. A good friend of mine, and probably yours, passed away over the weekend. Aldo Zanino.
Yes.
The dad of David Zanino.
Yes.
He was 91 years old. I guess he was pretty sick, so that's the good part. He's not suffering anymore.
Well, I just want to say our condolences to the Zanino family. We're very, very close to them, and it's a subject that sometimes you don't want to talk about on the radio, but I'm glad in a way that you brought it up because Dave and Dawn and the rest of the family, Mrs. Zanino, our thoughts and prayers go with you, and they're just really, really nice people.
Yep. Okay, well, you have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. It saddens me to have those remarks made on the radio because I like to have happiness around us, but it's part of life. And I know that we've had the passing of many of our lunch punchers, etc., and now Mr. Zanino, and Dave is a very, very good friend of mine, along with his lovely wife, Dawn, and our sympathies go to Mrs. Zanino, and certainly our prayers are with them. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Daryl's Cleaners. I've been going into Daryl's Cleaners for years and years before they came on this program. They are simply the best at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. And, I like my Wranglers all starched and pressed, and I like my shirts a certain way. They do a phenomenal job. So for all your cleaning, and by the way, don't forget, with the in-house activities coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, maybe you better make sure that everything's dry clean and ready to go. Stop into Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, serving you. Another great business, too, that we want to highlight and feature this morning, and that is SafeLink Internet, Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet, 18 years and counting, and no credit checks, no contracts, unlimited data. They are good, and we've been with their program, I can't remember exactly, but I'm going to say 5 or 6 years. Absolutely the best, and the service is great. SafeLink Internet. Get on the service today at 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. SafeLink Internet. All right. Really, when you think about it, and just honestly be straight up and square honest with me on this, just think about it for a moment. If you're a crook, you've done something illegal in your life, and a liar, and you lied about it during your lifetime, and you've held one of the highest positions in government as a Secretary of State. Now you're running for president, and everything you've done and everything you've lied about and tried to cover up with deceit and cheating and everything else is washed away by the media. And that is exactly what's happening with and for Hillary Clinton. Very disgusting and devious, but the liberals are whitewashing the picket fence, and she is, according to them, the coming savior. It's unbelievable to me. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
They don't have enough whitewash to make her all pristine. I can't handle her. I'm just upset about that.
Well, Doug, wait a minute. I want to ask you a comment here. What are we going to do? I've thought a lot about this, and I did not want Obama to even get a whiff of the Oval Office as president, but now I am really concerned that we could go even lower in the depths of absolute tyranny with Hillary.
Well,
she wants the glory, just like Obama. Obama wanted the glory of being president, but he did not want to do the work.
Yeah.
And she is worse than he is.
Yep.
But what I'm calling about was our good buddy Mr. Boehner back in Washington. Budget.
All right, go ahead, Doug. Explain.
I'm so upset that he's handing Obama a blank check for 2 years.
I'm not seeing any partisanship. I'm not seeing any respect for the party loyals that are out in the hinterland, you and me, that don't want certain things done, but they go ahead and do them anyway. I don't see the respect for the voter. I don't see the respect for the constituents. This, to me, is just nothing good old sleaze. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine.
Well, my opinion on with Boehner doing what he's doing is, I got hurt feelings now. I'm just going to sell you guys down the river.
Yeah, that's exactly what I felt like, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Boehner's office phone number is... Would you like that?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Where are we at here? Here we go.
Okay.
202.
Yes.
225. 6205.
Okay. I'll repeat that. 202-225-6205. Just call that number and you'll get a receptionist and probably then an office secretary, and just say very nicely, or even a tape machine, John Boehner, whose side are you on?
Well, I called it, and due to a high call volume,
oh, yes,
they put me on hold and wanted to know if I wanted to leave a message. So I was on hold for almost 10 minutes.
And you never talked to a live human being?
Never did.
Nope.
And also, too, that phone system he got that plays the music while you're on.
Oh, yeah.
He's getting ripped off because you couldn't even understand what it was playing.
You know, this deal about call your senators and your congressmen, call your representatives and let them know how you feel is a bunch of doggone malarkey. And I had to really clean up my verbiage there, Doug, because you can't get through, and they'll play this tape like, well, due to a very heavy call volume on very serious subjects that your senator or congressman is working on, please leave a message at the sound of the tone.
Right. Yeah, it's bovine droppings is exactly what it is.
You got that right. Hey, man.
Anyway, so you go on hold a couple times, and then it goes right to a voicemail. So
yep.
I left a message stating, you're selling us down the river, but come to think of it, Mr. Boehner, you're going to be living in the same country. So is your kids, and so is your grandkids, that you are selling down the river.
And basically it is selling down. You know what? I don't care who's offended by this, but when you look at the hierarchy of government today, I don't care if it's Obama, I don't care if it's any of his ilk on his side of the aisle, or go across the aisle to the Republicans, all the promises they made to you and me, bunch of balderdash, Doug.
Exactly. That, they run on a campaign of they were going to fight Obama and they were going to do and they have not done diddly.
Well, and Diddley got up and left and got his guitar, too. Anyway.
You didn't he?
Yeah, I did. Hey, Doug, God bless you, man. Thank you much.
All right. All I can say is God have mercy on America.
Oh, how true is that? How true is that? Thank you. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 678-0459, and they'll have your order that you're wanting to get picked up right there on the counter, and everything will be in, out, there you go. They've got all your air filters for your furnaces, and boy, you heard Gina's weather earlier. It's going to drop like a rock starting maybe tomorrow and through the weekend, so stay a little warm and toasty with clean air filters, helping run your furnace efficiently. And all your heating and electrical needs at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. By the way, I just love the food at Denny's restaurant, and Thomas has done such a wonderful job with both locations, the 611 Overland location in Burley and the 291 Pole Line location in Twin Falls. And if you haven't tried that fantastic 4-cheese omelet, 3-egg omelet stuffed with 4 cheeses, diced bacon, and fresh veggies, woo! Knock your boots off, delicious. And you're just going to love everything on the menu, breakfast, lunch, and or dinner. And the service is always very friendly and efficient at Denny's Restaurant. Don't forget, we're going to have another football game this weekend, and if you pick the winning team and closest to the final score, you will receive a grand slam breakfast from Denny's Restaurant, okay? 611 Overland in Burley. Think, though, that this woman, Hillary, I want to go back to Hillary for just a few moments. She is... There's nothing that's going to change it right now. She's going to be the nominee for the Democratic Party for the presidency. What does that say about the Democrats? What does that say for basically us in general? That we are going to put up on the ticket for presidency somebody that has been investigated, somebody that could very easily be indicted, and somebody that could also very easily, if the law follows through, be sent to prison. That's the kind of president we want to stick in the Oval Office? From her past in Arkansas to the White House with Wild Bill, to Benghazi, to her emails, she is now anointed as squeaky clean by the media. Oh, they can find no fault with Hillary. And I know I was listening. I went around to the various channels yesterday, and we're listening to some of these absolutely repulsive howdy-doodies that sit there on the main chair as anchors. Oh, Hillary's had such a tough 10 days. But she emerged victorious. Oh, my goodness, they're just anointing her not president, but queen, for heaven's sakes. Do you really want that person as president of the United States of America? Have we gone that far into the, let's just call it like it is, cesspool, that we would even consider putting her in office? Unbelievable. Wow. Okay. Anyway, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, the big Halloween party is this weekend over at Four Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West 200 South of Rupert. Oh, get your doggy dressed up, whether you want to dress him up as Frankenstein or whether you want to dress him up as... I better leave that one alone. Anyway, some member of politics, go ahead. You can have a fun time, and they're going to have a parade of costume dogs and owners starting at 1 o'clock on Saturday, followed by prizes and refreshments. It is a fun time at Four Paws Bed and Bath, 370 West 200 South of Rupert. Don't forget the big Halloween party coming up this weekend, and they know how to have fun. By the way, I'll take some more calls. Come on, get on the phone and give me a call. I love talking with you. I want to say thank you also to some folks that I'm going to be going back starting next week again. And my old hip is just so full of arthritis and everything. I got to have some work done on that with the physical therapists at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And that fly just about made a landing inside my mouth. Get out of here, fly. They are helping you get back to being you at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. They know all the exercises, all the sports medicine, and they've got the only hydrotherapy pool with the treadmill in the bottom in the area, and they know how to help you. Like I said, helping you get back to being you. 678-1191, the number to call, 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Wonderful, wonderful folks serving you. I don't know whether to believe this or not. Honestly, I'm starting to have some real misgivings about various political polls. Now, I'm not going to call them false or fraudulent or rigged, but all of a sudden, the latest poll came out in Iowa. And it shows Ben Carson really has pulled ahead of Donald Trump. And Trump is not a happy camper about this. He's a very competitive person, which I think is okay, good. But I agree with Donald Trump that all of a sudden overnight, and you know that there are the mechanics of behind the scenes, get Trump, get him out of the running for president, do anything you can type people. They're out there. You can't argue that. And the polls say that Ben Carson has jumped into the lead in Iowa. And then the New Hampshire polls show the almost exact same figures back in Trump's favor over Carson. Well, tomorrow night's the Republican debate, and the third one, pardon me, and it's going to be on MSNBC, which is the first letters MES, MS. That network absolutely has no power, has absolutely no personnel, and is just really not a very good network. Well, I believe tomorrow night's going to separate the baggage that's holding on right now on the Republican Party. And I think after tomorrow night, we're going to see at least 4 or 5 people. Adios. They're gone. Out of here. And I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Who do you think are going to be the people that are going to be waving goodbye as the train goes down the tracks, like the cartoon in the newspaper this morning, and goes on to the next debate, or keeps some people in the race? Hopefully they're going to have some more money coming into their campaigns. Who do you think of the Republicans are gone? Adios, amen, out of here. Who do you think are the ones that after tonight will not be there in the future? Give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your phone call that I know is coming in, give me a call. I want you to remember that your hearing is very, very important. You know, we make jokes about it. Hey, what did he say? Well, you know, it's not funny. It is not funny. And I suggest that you call Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids and talk to Dr. Christine Pickup. Call for a hearing screening today. All you have to do is just give her a call at 312-0957. That number again, 312-0957. Located across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And I'll tell you what, hearing loss can be dependent upon many, many factors, so don't put it off. Call that number today, 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Your turn. Give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. One subject that this morning, it's hard to talk about because it just shows how uncivilized our civilized society is, supposedly. And our president is ignoring the statistics. Obama is ignoring the deaths. Obama is ignoring the crime. Obama is doing everything he can to just basically, it's not happening. Don't worry about it. These statistics are wrong. It's all hype. What I'm talking about is that the numbers are out on homicides, murders in some of our nation's biggest cities, like Baltimore, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C. But the facts are the facts, and the homicides and the murders are up 50% in those cities. And many other cities across the board are up as much as 40%, 45%. And here's what I think is going on. And I want you to weigh in on this. Go on, folks. I think, honestly, the police have had not one but both hands tied behind their back. Thanks to the idiocy of Black Lives Matter and other organizations, and also the incompetency of Obama and his administration taking normally always the side against the police, like they did in Ferguson and other places. And here we have police forces, in my opinion, that they're out on the street, they're on patrol, and you can't blame them for the human factor of, whoa, if I get involved if I do anything, if I do something and someone has a picture or a video or whatever showing that maybe I did this or I did that, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble, and I could lose my job, I could lose my pension, I could lose everything. They're trying to enforce the law. But right now, absolutely idiotic groups like Black Lives Matter and others have made it to the point where they're looking over their shoulder 24/7, 365. And they're too nervous to get involved. And like I said, the White House, this president, has taken the side of the punks and the lawless in many, many cases. And the White House is now investigating over 20 police departments across our country. And this administration has sided with the despicable Black Lives Matter. The division in this country is worse now than ever before in my lifetime. I think much worse than it was during the 60s in Selma, Alabama. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Deb. You know, on that thing you asked about the candidates, there's so many of them that I don't even remember. But let me tell you how it's going to finish. It's going to be Trump, Carson, Rubio, and Cruz, and possibly Rand Paul. But I think Jeb Bush is going to be out of the running, and I hope that that's the case.
You know, I don't want Jeb Bush to be a president of the United States. I don't mind if he runs for the governorship of Florida again. That would be fine. But I don't want him to be the president. I'm very, very afraid of his policies. I'm very afraid of his supporting certain things like Common Core, etc. I personally do not like, nor do I trust Jeb Bush. That being said, there are some in the lower tier that I do like, parts of their politics, but they will never get the percentage points to go on and be president. I agree with most of the names that you announced just a moment ago, and I think we'll see a lot of the other people, the Mike Huckabees and the others, go by the wayside very shortly.
Well, you know, Carly Fiorina, I really like her, and maybe not if she doesn't get a nomination, vice president, she would make a good vice president, because this woman is very, very smart.
She's very, very smart, but I have delved into some of her past and looked at some of her saying how she is on various subjects, and I'm a little concerned about Carly Fiorina. I respect her. I wish her well, but I'm not at all ready to say that I would like her to see the presidency or the vice presidency because of some of the things she stood for and backed in the past. Across the aisle with the Democrats, namely also Hillary Clinton.
I also, in that top tier, I like the governor of Ohio, Kasich. He's a good fiscal man, and he seems to have a good knowledge of everything, and he's done a lot for that state. So I probably would put him in that top 5.
Maybe. I think it's an outside chance. He's a horse in the race that's going to have to eat a lot of oats to get the votes on the poll numbers. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do appreciate your call, Keith. God bless you, man. And Nancy, the very best. Thank you so much.
You bet.
All right, sir. Thank you. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Just a minute. I've got to kill this fly. Got him! For those watching on the TV cameras, that was one of the best shots I ever made. I mean, that was a left-handed kind of a scoop shot, and it worked very well. Thank you. Dead fly. Let's go back and do our commercial real quick for Berry Equipment and Rental. I'm happy now I got my fly. Addison Avenue West, Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, with all the equipment you need to get the job done right. Man, we went by there yesterday, and it just seemed I don't know who's in charge of parking all the equipment, but that dude has got to be busy 24/7, 365. You want this over there now, boss? You want this over there? Holy cow, they've got a lot of equipment. All the Bobcat skid steer loaders, and they got the Doosan loaders, and they've got all the Coyote tractors. They've got everything you need to get the job done right. Barry Equipment and Rental. You stop in and see them today. Store hours, Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30. Saturdays, 8 to 5. Barry Equipment and Rental, Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Really good folks. Also, don't forget Lennox and Ramsey Heating and Electric. Oh, boy, they've teamed up, and I'll tell you what, offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them at 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric can save you money. Okay? Call today. Your turn. Come on, don't weaken on me, everybody. Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear from you. There was a letter in the paper, and it was by Rob Blick. I know Rob, over at Castle Ford. And he's one of the very few people that had, I think, the intestinal fortitude, namely the guts, to stand up and tell the Twin Falls School District how wrong they were about the gender identity policy guidelines that have been handed down by the School Board Association. And I could not agree more with what Rob Blick said, and I compliment him for his letter, and I'll get into that in just a few moments. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, my friend.
Yes, sir.
As far as the police are concerned, guys, do your job. You are hired by the city or by the county or by the state. You are not hired by the federal government. As far as I'm concerned, the federal government has no jurisdiction. You take care of the laws, you take care of people, and tell the federal government to stuff it. I say the same thing with the Border Patrol.
Well, you know, that's easier said than done, though, Kilt Man. You know that.
I do. But it's just one of those things, you know, there's some sheriffs that are standing up against the federal government, and I would.
My concern is, and we're seeing this, we're absolutely seeing this, that the police are kind of pulling back a little bit. They're afraid, I don't want to use the word afraid, because I don't think anybody in law enforcement is afraid. But they're very tentative about getting involved because of the ramifications of their actions and how the liberal left, with their smartphones and everything else, is doing all they can to demonize and denigrate them. And boy, it is tough times being a policeman.
Oh, it is. The thing is, like I said, you took an oath. You need to follow that oath and stand to it. Same thing with our military. You took that oath and stand up to it. And until some of these people tell our federal government to stuff it, you're wrong. We're going to have to take care of ourselves.
You know, and how can the president, and this is one thing that really bothers me, Kilt Man, disavow the statistics? You can't lie and cheat and steal with numbers that are unbiased numbers. And in the cities of Washington, D.C., Baltimore, we knew Baltimore was having all kinds of problems, St. Louis, etc., with the homicide rate up 50%, and the people that work in the cities, the people that are on the city councils and everything are saying, hey, our policemen are scared to get involved because of what's going on. I mean, and Obama disavows this is happening. It's absolutely disgusting.
I agree. Have a good day, my friend.
All right, buddy. Take care. I appreciate your call. I really feel sympathy for policemen, and I'm not saying that just to sidle up to somebody and make sure they like me or my program. No, I'm serious. They're in a tough position. I'll give you an example. It's so easy to criticize the policeman or law enforcement. You know, there was a video that I saw this morning on television at 4:30. And it was in a classroom, and this girl, this high school girl, was absolutely being foul-mouthed and obnoxious to the teacher. The teacher asked the young lady to leave the classroom, and she refused. No, I ain't going to leave. I'm going to stay right here. And she just kept right on going. Well, the teacher got a hold of the officer in the school, and he came in and, believe me, in no uncertain terms, removed the girl from the classroom. I don't feel any sympathy for this kid. I was amazed this morning, listening and watching people that were tweeting in and sending faxes and emails. Oh, that big bad police officer, why, that's Gestapo tactics. How dare... Listen, wait a minute, folks. When a kid is told to do something or not do something and defies authority, what then? And the cop came in, and she just latched onto the desk and said, I'm not going anywhere. You can't make me. Yes, he could. And he did. I am not feeling sympathy for these people. When you break the law, thumb your nose at the law, or you do something that's against a civilized society, I don't really care if you get poked in the nose by authority. I don't care about that. Do you? The Bible said in the last days, what is good will become evil, and what is evil will be accepted as good. And I absolutely can see this happening every single day. We have authority figures in our society. In a civil society, you have to have authority figures, be it a school policeman, be it a policeman on the street, be it whatever. Your boss, whatever. You have rules and regulations to follow. And if we're going to have complete anarchy, and we're going to have our kids lose any and all respect for authority by watching mom and dad because they're thumbing their nose at authority, what kind of an absolutely insane society are we going to have? I feel no remorse for that girl being literally jerked out of that chair and taken out of that room. But oh, are they coming after that policeman? What are your thoughts? Come on, pick up the phone and let me know what you think about this. You've got to have authority. You've got to have laws. And you have to have a civil society, or it's anarchy. I want to say thank you to our friends at the Minidoka Memorial Hospital. On Mondays and Thursdays, we have a special segment where we highlight what is all going on at Minidoka Memorial Hospital at 1224 8th Street in Rupert. Their vision for the Minidoka Memorial Hospital is an independent community hospital dedicated to improving the health and well-being of the Mini-Cassia area. Your health is so important, why not work with the best that really care? Minidoka Memorial Hospital, 1224 8th Street in Rupert. Number to call, 436-0481. Caller, I'm going to ask your patience. Please bear with me 60 seconds. I've got to get a weather forecast in here. And the weather is brought to everybody by Mad River Laser. Nicole and the rest of the gang with the gift shop. What a great gift shop with all the decor items in there for Halloween and the fall. And they've got everything for the year-end awards for businesses. Oh, they can do a wonderful job, and they do. All your business promotional products right there at Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Here's Gina with the weather.
Weather for today, you better enjoy it because tomorrow and especially on Thursday, a completely different story. Expecting sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, high of 57 with an overnight low of 32. Tomorrow, more clouds are going to be moving into the valley, high of 60 with an overnight low of 41. Thursday is going to be the game changer, at least right now anyway. We're looking at rain showers and winds are going to be picking up out of the west right around 20 miles an hour for Thursday, high of 51 with an overnight low of 34. For Friday, it's going to be a little bit better. Partly cloudy, winds right around the southwest at 15 miles an hour, high at 55 with an overnight low of 40. And then for Saturday, partly cloudy and 64. That's your weather forecast for Zebeth.
Thank you, Gina. Excellent job. Brought to everybody by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Caller, thank you for your patience. You're on the air. Thank you much. Talk to me, caller. Wheels, turn it up. Thank you. What happened to my call?
The phone.
What's that?
So you are on there.
I'm listening. Go ahead, quickly, please.
I'm right with you on what they're saying, what you're saying about these bleeding hearts back there that feel like they can just do what they want against the law.
Okay.
They've taken it too far, and the left-wingers have taken it too far their way, too.
You know, what are we going to do to turn this thing around? The police have got, like I said, not one hand, but now both hands almost tied behind them. They can't enforce the law or, really go out and get the bad guys and subject them to arrests and thrown in the back of a squad car. I mean, you got to be so careful and handle all these people with kid gloves. And look at the rest of society, from our kids in school all the way to our workforce. You've got to be so careful and be politically correct. And you know what I say to that? It's balderdash. We've got to get back to the basics of what made this country great.
Well, do you remember 20 years ago when we had all the problem with airplane hijackers?
Yes.
They started shooting them on sight.
Yes.
But they quit messing around with them.
Well, I am
That's what we need to start doing.
I'm an advocate of being very, very tough to stop the bad guys in our society. Caller, I thank you.
That's the problem. We can't be tough anymore. It's not politically correct.
I agree. And that's got to change.
Correctness bullshit that's what it is. It's bullshit.
Yeah, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth on the program. That's not a word that I'll accept. Thank you for your call. Got to go. Thank you. I'm going to urge everybody one more time, don't use any foul language on my program. I like your calls. I appreciate your positions on various subjects. You use bad language on my phone and on my program, you will never call again. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, good morning, Zeb, again. Yeah, that was basically standard procedure in my day when I went to school. If you acted up in class, either the teacher took disciplinary actions or they sent you to the principal's office to face disciplinary actions. There was one teacher in particular, you didn't mess around in his class. He'd jerk you right out of the chair and take you out in the hall and thump you up against the lockers.
And you know something? I had some teachers in high school. A biology teacher, Mr. Sponham, was like that. You mess around in the school, in his class. I remember a couple of times they were dissecting a frog. And this one kid with the knife, he was jumping back and forth. And Mr. Sponham come over and said, "That's it. Put it down." And the kid kind of looked at him like, who are you to tell me? And believe me, in no uncertain terms, it's funny, but that kid put the knife down like El Pronto.
Yeah. Well, like I say, they've lost respect for a lot of it.
I agree.
For the teachers anymore. They don't have any respect for the teachers and the authority of the classroom. That's that teacher's classroom, and he's the authority in that classroom.
Well, it's not just the classroom, and I'm not just picking on kids, but you can look at the adults, look at these absolute lowlifes, these pond scums of Black Lives Matter standing on street corners and asking for the murder of policemen. How much lower can you go?
Yeah, that's another form of major disrespect to the authority of the police community. Those guys are got a tough enough job as it is without somebody acting up like that.
Absolutely.
For people to murder them in cold blood.
And you know what it boils down to, my friend? You know what it boils down to? What's going on in this country? We have lost a 7-letter word from our vocabulary, and here's what it is: respect.
Yes. Well, there's another word, too. We've lost our morals.
There you go. I appreciate your calling back this morning. Thank you very much.
You too.
All right. God bless. Yeah, I'm having a hard time I know I'm going to get criticism on this because the liberal left out there, some of these loons, they lurk in the darkness in their little computer rooms and they wait for me to say something that they don't adhere to or buy into, and then they just type away as fast as they can and they really demonize me, which is fine. Go ahead and do all you can. But, I just honestly think that we've got to start cleaning up our act. We've got to look at the school systems. We've got to look at these little prima donnas. We've got to say that we have to have better enforcement. We have to have more rules and regulations. They have to be adhered to, and that's not only for the kids. It goes into the adult cycle, too, whether it's your job, your workplace, whether it's on the street, minding and abiding by the law. We have to. Because look what's happening. Murder in cities right now up 50%, and our own president won't even acknowledge that crime is out of control. He won't because he doesn't want it as a smear on his legacy. I don't trust this man. Never have. And never will. And the thing is, and I can see it coming, and it's happened basically with like the refugee center in Twin Falls. If we stand up and we're very concerned about people that are coming in here that are not vetted, we don't know anything about their past, we don't know anything about why they want to come in here, we don't know what they're going to do, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and we're asking questions, bingo! All of a sudden, you are a bigot and a hate monger. This is exactly the mantra, the theatrical response that the left gives. Oh, you're against going with the rest of the herd. Why, you're a bigot and a hate monger. No, I'm not. I try to look at common sense, and I also try to look at the biblical principles. That's not being a bigot nor a hate monger. And I think, and I'm going to come right out and say this, that many church leaders and many churches have been duped. They've been blindfolded and somebody's plugged up their ears into accepting this into not only our area, but other areas. And when you bring home a pit bull that likes to bite people, you may have a problem. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I really don't give a tennis shoe with a hole in it about the liberal left in this area condemning me, saying, oh, well, he's against it. Oh, well, he's against CSI. Oh, well, he's against all the refugees coming in here. Wait a minute. I'm against seeing our culture, and I'm against seeing our communities, and I'm against seeing our population and our people suffer and or do with less by bringing in people that absolutely will never fit into this culture. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the best of all the tires. I mean, they've got a lot of tires on sale, like the Strategy tire for your car, all-season design, long tread life, and the Open Country HT for your pick-em-up trucks and SUVs. They know tires. All the people with the Les Schwab Tire Centers have taken a course called Tireology, and they know the best tires for your style of driving. You be sure and check it out along with the best in brake service and front end alignments and shocks and struts and batteries. That's one thing I want to urge you. Why don't you stop in and have your battery checked? And boy, you might find out, not going to do the job this winter, and save yourself a lot of headaches and get a brand new battery at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. What are your thoughts about this? Do you agree or not agree that we have become way too mellow? We have become way too easy to bend the rules and not issue punishment for wrongdoers and not say people, hey, that's wrong. You can't do that. And try to change things? Or are we just like a big old sponge? We're just going to sit back and absorb. And when you sit back and absorb all the gunk and the goo and the mess and the low-class humanity, pretty soon it's too late. And all that this great country, America, has stood for well over 200 years goes right down the drain. And quite frankly, I think that's where we're headed. I'll go back and say again about the Bible. It has prophesied all this, and we are seeing the Bible come to life right now. And we've been told that those that call wrong wrong are going to be labeled as bigots and hate mongers. It's happening. I just hope and pray that enough of us stand up and fight back. Coming up next hour, Frosty Woldridge from Denver, Colorado area, Golden to be exact. And then at 9:30, Kyle Drennan, and he's going to be talking about the GOP debate tomorrow night and who may not be left standing after tomorrow night. So all of that coming up this next hour. And then at 10 o'clock, Dr. History. We got all kinds of things. You stay tuned. Zeb at the Ranch, I'll be back in 6. Don't forget, you're listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call 312-0957. Wheels, take us to news. Oh, welcome back. Looks like a nice day today, but Gina said that's going to change maybe tomorrow. We'll have that weather forecast coming up in just a little bit. Good morning, Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and the freedmen. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, let me tell you something, folks. They have been serving this area for a long, long time. Locally owned and operated, Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Number to call, 734-6969. And don't forget, get those dumpsters if you're cleaning out your office, your garage, or your office. Yeah, like mine, man. They haven't got a dumpster big enough. I'd have to get 2 of them. Anyway, I'll guarantee you, they'll bring them out, and you fill them up, and they'll come get them. You better believe it. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. 734-6969. Really nice people. You know, before we go with our guest, I also want to remind you about Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with our dear friend, and he is Joel Heward, his staff, and his family, and all the flexible hours to serve you and give you and your family the attention you need when there's the passing of a loved one. They are there to help, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. So please, write the number down, call them, and we all should call and get pre-planning information on funerals to help save our families from a lot of the stress and the worry. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. On Tuesdays, I always look forward to having my good buddy on the program, and that is Frosty Woldridge of Golden, Colorado. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Zeb. Always a pleasure, sir. I would like to have everyone go to newswithviews.com today, because my latest column is there, Turning America into an International Doormat. And, of course, as we talk about each week, we're about to import 100 million legal immigrants. And it's starting to get all over the news, especially what's happening to Europe. So I'm excited that we are really lighting a fire under listeners across the country and across the world on the Zeb Bell program, because you are interviewing top experts and individuals that are really shedding light on this thing, and we need to change course. So I'm thrilled to be with you today.
You know, Frosty, I've got a publication, a written article by Leo Holman of U.S. World Net News, and I want to share this with you, and so I'm going to be sending it to you after the program, and it's all about the refugee pushback growing in multiple states, whether it's Carolina, South Carolina, whether it's California, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's right here in Twin Falls, Idaho area, against all the Syrian Muslim refugees coming in. And this 7-page report written by Leo Holman is absolutely excellent, and I want to share it with you. But that doesn't alleviate the problem. The American public is having this thrust upon them, and I am more worried today than I was last week about what's going to possibly happen with these refugees.
You should be a lot worried, in fact, more worried, worried out of your mind. This thing is not going to end unless the American people start standing up like the Germans, like the Polish. Merkel right now could get herself tossed right out of the power position over there, and the Polish are shutting down as fast as they can because, and Hungary is also shutting down the borders. The fact is, and Roy Beck, and you've had him on the program, you cannot immigrate the third world out of its poverty. I want to repeat that. You cannot immigrate the third world out of its poverty. In other words, the third world is really what's adding the 80 million new babies every year. And so if you keep immigrating all of their people, all of their essentially human exhaust, and that's what's happening if you want to put it in cruel terms, I guess, all these people have refused to take responsibility for their own countries, for their own fecundity rates, and they're the ones that are now knocking on the door of all of our countries that did choose to be responsible for our birth rates 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And so I will devour that piece, and we can even talk about it next week. But the key is we have to, and please, every person listening today, join. It's called refugeeresettlementwatch.wordpress.com with Ann Corcoran. And she's really showing exactly what's happening. It's getting so bad in Europe that they don't even know how to stop it, because they can't stop it, because it's like trying to swat every fly in a barn. You can't. There's too many flies. And then especially if they're horse flies, they're going to bite you even worse. And that's what's happening to Europe, but that's what's happening to us too. And so we need a national discussion on how many people we want to add to this country. And as one of the, go to my website or go to my Facebook, Frosty Woodridge, and you'll see all my latest material. But 42 million people in this country weren't even born here. They're not born Americans. They're just foreigners, and we're about to add another 100 million of them. Yeah, we're in trouble, and we need to stop it as a country, as individuals, as states, as cities. Twin Falls, Boise, it doesn't make any difference. The American people have got to stand up and say, no, we won't take on these refugees. We're not going to have our town flooded with all these refugees. Why? Because the line only grows every year, so it's not solving anything. And as I've said in the past, and this may become a mantra, we can't save all the rest of the world, but we can certainly destroy our own country.
Well, and speaking of Ann Corcoran, she's mentioned in this story many, many times. And what I wanted to ask you about is if you're aware about a major pro-immigration conference that's set for New York City in December. Now, this is what they're going to do at this conference, Frosty. The conference is going to include breakout sessions on how to counter the growing backlash against refugees, particularly Muslim refugees, and they're going to come out with different ways to make sure that we are labeled as racists, bigots, and hate mongers, and they're going to teach people at this conference how to fight against us.
Well, In the final analysis, it's not about hate, it's not about anger, it's nothing. It's about sustainability. It's about the numbers that can be sustained. And the fact is, these numbers cannot be sustained because there's no end of the line. It keeps growing. And in the end, every American city, every community in this country is going to be affected by this invasion of our country. And you're going to see more and more people are going to start jumping in with us. I think everybody's heard the old saying by Mark Twain, the patriot is a marked and scorned man, hated, and all the other things that go with it. But when his cause begins to succeed, even the timid join him. That was Mark Twain way back in the 1800. And so the fact is, we need to stand together as patriots and absolutely stand our ground. And it has nothing to do with the name calling. It has to do with we cannot sustain our own civilization, our own poor, and our own people with never-ending immigration. Period.
Absolutely. We've got a caller with a question. Go ahead quickly, caller.
Yes, Frosty, our local school, College of Southern Idaho, the leadership there is so bound and determined to keep this, and they're literally irritated that we are standing up and speaking out. I mean, this paper continues to promote it, and the other night I was watching the news to see the weather, and they did a piece to promote it, and it wasn't fair and objective by any means on the local news, and I thought it just is so irritating, and they have no intentions of backing down. And to see maybe lots of these refugees might be fine, but you see, you never know which one is going to wake up one day and decide to do something or already had planned it. I'll hang up.
All right, thank you, caller. Frosty, respond, please.
Well, again, you have to understand that the Quran main prime directive is to convert or kill all non-believers. That's what drives every Muslim, whether they're moderate, whether they're radical, doesn't make any difference. They are charged to support Allah and the Prophet in converting or killing all non-believers. So their numbers grow. I guarantee you, I have guaranteed this in the past, if you start absorbing Muslims into Idaho or any community, any state, you're going to see a tremendous change in your culture. You're going to see confrontation. You're going to see violence, because Muslims cannot help themselves. They have no possible way that they can absorb into and assimilate into a Western country, because everything we do is against the Quran. Women's rights, the choice of marriage mate, free speech, acceptance of gays, constitutional rights, all of those are negated by the Quran, and they will change everything in this country of ours if we let them continue to import themselves into our country. And no matter what the college people do, and I've taught at the college level, and I can tell you this: when you're living in the academic towers and the pristine, parts of colleges, they don't have any idea what's going down at the ground level, and that's why they push like this. They're called liberals, and they're idiots from the most part, and we get to be the victims of this thing. So you got to start marching right there in Twin Falls and Boise and all of Idaho, and you've got to really get together and start putting big signs up, getting on TV and say, no, we don't want them. Even if you get called names, who cares? You're an American patriot. You're defending your country, and you absolutely do not want to have all of these Syrian Muslim immigrants. You don't want any more immigrants at all, period.
That's right.
The key here.
And it was interesting, you mentioned Ann Corcoran, the author of the Refugee Settlement Watch blog, and she had a very interesting quote in this article that I have, and I'll read it to you. Corcoran said, "There is plenty that the citizen activists can do at the grassroots level to cause problems for the pushers of refugee settlement, and informed citizenry is their worst nightmare." Amen. She hit the nail right on the head.
She certainly did. And you know who's pushing this? The UN's pushing it through the Lutherans and through the Catholic Church. There's about 8 different agencies, and she points them all out. And what's amazing is the people that are pushing this are making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. The more they push more people into our country, they get paid more. So this is a little bit of a money push right here for those greedy individuals. That it's just like all the greedy employers of illegal aliens. They don't care how many they push onto the school systems. They don't care how many get free lunches and breakfasts off of our tax dollars and then take away jobs from our working poor. Those who employ illegal aliens just care about the buck that they're making. And so the Lutheran Church and certainly the Catholic Church that are pushing all these Syrian Muslims on us, they're making money on this. And once they dump them on to our communities, then of course we got to pay for the food and the housing and the medical care and the teaching and the educational programs to deal with them. And again, as I said, if Idaho and if the rest of the country doesn't stop this invasion, it's going to change our entire country. We will absolutely lose our language, our peacefulness, our coherence as a people, our ethos. It's all going to be literally contentious and confrontational from here on out if we don't stop it now. That's a fact.
Well, and she goes on in this article that was written by Mr. Holloman, and there's another little aspect to what's going on right here locally with the College of Southern Idaho and the Times News. And Ann Corcoran says this: they, being the ones that are trying to promote that we should accept all these refugees, they will attempt to denigrate and demonize anyone who questions why their local community is being transformed demographically without so much as a public hearing, let alone a vote of the public. And that's exactly what's happening, Frosty.
That's exactly what's happening. So, again, get together with your friends, get out there with the signs, get on. Don't watch the news, be the news. When I did my 21st Century Paul Revere ride across the country in trying to stop illegal immigration, we touched 20 million lives on that motorcycle ride across 48 states and 48 capitals. So you got to do it now. Any way and every way you can, get the signs out there. I don't care if there's just 10 of you. Get down to your city and tell the paper you're going to be there, tell the TVs you're going to be there. They will cover you. Create the discussion. And Ann Corcoran's right. Create a discussion, then create a debate, and inform the citizenry why you don't want all of these Muslim immigrants in your city. And because you don't want the jihad terrorists that are absolutely embedded in those Syrian Muslim refugees. Just one look at Europe right now. They are being overwhelmed with new diseases, tuberculosis, syphilis. They've got diseases coming out of Africa that nobody knows how to deal with them. Well, guess what? That's the kind of stuff that's coming into your community and going to come into your school systems, and it's being pushed again by the Lutherans and by the Catholic Church and by the UN and of course by this Muslim president, Barack Obama.
There was another segment to this story I want to read to you because I'd like to get your response on it. In the story, they had a quote from Mohammed Hossein, founder of the Islamic Center of Redlands, California. And this person said the refugees are homeless and have nothing, so everybody has a duty to help them and that they would be grateful and never commit violence. Well, Ann Corcoran said this: I wonder, she said, would the mosque and CARE be involved at all if we were saving mostly Christian Syrians and not resettling mostly Muslims as we are now? Very good point by Ann Corcoran.
Well, exactly. And you have to understand, Muslims kill Christians. They're killing them across the Middle East right now. So this is nothing new. And the fact is, these Muslims could be taken in by Kuwait. They could be taken in by Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of rich Muslim countries out there where they'd just be happy to take care of themselves. Again, Ann Corcoran talks about Hijra. Hijra is the Quran's prime directive to seed. That's put new seeds, new Muslims into all these other countries to finally, in the end, to simply take over that country and make it an Islamic state. You're seeing it happen right now in Europe, and it's going to get ugly on many, many levels. So we must stand up. We must stop this. You've got to get out there and start making a lot of noise. And who cares what kind of names they call you? You're an American citizen. You have the right to express yourself and stand up for the Constitution. And I guarantee you, the Islamic invasion of our country, the Muslims, will not stand up for the Constitution. They will stand up for the Quran, and they'll stand up for Sharia law. And ladies, if you think it's a hard time being a gal in this country and the world today, you just wait till we get under Sharia law. There are no women's rights whatsoever under Sharia law. I
want to read one last little verse in this note that was written, and it's an excellent 7-page report, and I'll make sure you get it. Janelle Rains from Pickens County, South Carolina, said this: Muslims are using Christians as a way to infiltrate, using our good nature, our Christian values, using all of that against us. And in my opinion, it's all about money too. Judas betrayed Jesus for money, and there is so much money involved in this program. Everyone is getting their share, and they're betraying the people of the United States of America. In my opinion, it's borderline treason. So I got involved in this pretty hot and heavy issue. The one place I felt I could make a difference is in my local community. How true is that?
Well, that's exactly true, and that's exactly correct. And again, everyone, you've got to also join organizations such as CAPSWEB.org and NumbersUSA.org, and of course, carryingcapacity.org and FAIR, FAIRUS.org. Because you've got to make your voice more powerful by joining the collective energy of these organizations. And again, go to my Facebook page, Frosty Wooldridge, and you will have everything about what I'm writing and what I'm talking about and all that I'm doing to bring this to the national level. And again, I'm still trying to get on 60 Minutes. I'm still trying to get on Matt Lauer. I'm trying to get on Charlie Rose. And the key is we have to make a lot of noise. We've got to become the news, not read the news, and that's the key here. So get out there with your signs. Tell your local newspaper and tell your local TV show that you're going to be there at what time, and you're going to be loud and clear, and you're going to put those signs up, and you're going to be marching. Do it, and that way you get people enlightened about what's coming. Because you can sit there on the TV interview and say, yeah, we don't want 5,000 more people in our town. We don't have housing for them. We don't want the disruption of our schools, and we certainly can't afford the fact that they're going to be bringing jihadists in here that are going to be killing us, and they're going to be raping us, and that's what they do. And do you know that Sweden and Norway right now, the Muslim immigrants are raping their women? They're raping them. Sweden is now known as the rape capital of Europe. This is not just something in the wind. This is what's happening. So stand up, and who cares what names they call you? Stand up for your country, for your community, and for your family.
All right, I got to end on somewhat of a lighter note, and of course you know what next Sunday night is, do you not?
Yes, I do.
I have a team in pro football called the Green Bay Packers that is coming to Denver to play the Broncos, and so therefore we need to have a little gentleman's bet as to how we're going to address this the following Tuesday morning.
You know, I can't wait for the best team to win, and I'll be excited for the best team that wins. I mean, that's all I can say. And of course, just like Michigan State, beat U of M, I mean, the Broncos are just going to do the same thing to the Packers. But, I'll just let that happen. The answer will reveal itself.
Somebody has spiked your coffee this morning because you're on a happy pill that's going to come out, and you're going to really feel down and lost after Sunday night's game. Hey, my friend, God bless you. We'll talk to you next Tuesday, and the very best to you, Frosty. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Zeb.
All right, buddy. Take care. Frosty Wooldridge in Golden, Colorado. One of my favorite guests to have on the program. Why? Because he tells it like it is. Thank you very much. I know some folks that will tell you like it is, and it involves fun. Yes, this is where the fun is sold. Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn. Oh my, look outside. Isn't that pretty outside? Well, get on a four-wheeler and zoom, zoom, zoom up in the hills and enjoy the beautiful fall colors. They've got all the Suzuki 4x4s and great rebates, too. And, of course, got to get ready for the snow. They've got the snow machines. They've got the new timber sled snow bikes. Oh, my goodness, you can have fun outside. And a great accessory department, all you need. And if anything needs fixing, they've got a fantastic service department, too. At Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn. Yep, it is where the fun is sold. You know, some of the folks I want to brag about a little bit, because I took my pickup in to have some body work done at Snake River Auto Body and Paint. They were highly recommended to me, and I can see why. They have a very, very diligent staff. I mean, they've got 5 estimators, they've got over 20 employees, and believe me, quality workmanship. I am very fussy about my vehicles, and I want to make sure that they're kept up nice and look nice. And boy, did they do a nice job for me. Satisfaction is guaranteed, and I'll tell you what, they've got an Old Town location with Old Town values of serving the customer. There you go. Be sure and give them a call for any dings, dents, whatever you need fixed up. Snake River Auto Body and Paint. And they're located at 404 4th Avenue West in Twin Falls. And the number to call, 734-5790. Really nice people. We're going to have our next guest with us on the phone momentarily. Do not forget that the second annual Pilgrim Pride Dinner will take place at the Golden Heritage Senior Center at 2421 Overland Avenue in Burley, November 19th from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., $10 per ticket, and the proceeds going to the Meals on Wheels program. Do not miss this dinner. It was phenomenal last year. It's going to be even bigger and better this year. That's on November 19th, second annual Pilgrim Pride Dinner at the Golden Heritage Senior Center. Real quick, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits. All your coverage needs right there. And these folks are really accessible and devoted to serving you and others. Please give them a call for an appointment today. And that's, of course, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. They are waiting to serve you. The number to call, 436-4424. 436-4424. Oh, by the way, too, don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric with Lennox. Oh, my goodness sakes, yes, sirree. They're offering rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps. All you have to do is give them a call at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, saving you money. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and a gentleman that I always look forward to having on my program with the Media Research Center, and we have Kyle Drennan, the news analyst for the Media Research Center. Kyle, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Zeb. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you on. You're very well informed. And tomorrow night, we have the third of the Republican debates. And it's going to be on MSNBC, which I think is not going to be very well attended with an audience. But I'd like your feelings first and foremost. What about this third debate? Are we going to see a lot of people go by the wayside after the debate tomorrow night?
You know, we'll have to see. Right now it's, Trump and Carson are kind of battling it out. Carson's kind of pulling ahead of Trump in some polls. So, I think it'll be interesting to see the two of them sort of square off against each other. And then also it seems like the Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, there might be sort of some tension between those two. So, we'll just have to see how it all shakes out in terms of the candidates. And, if anybody decides to, who decides to stay in, who decides to get out, that's always interesting because these debates definitely seem to be having some impact on those decisions. But, from a media perspective, we're sort of looking at the moderators of this debate. One of the main moderators is going to be John Harwood from CNBC. He's their big political correspondent there. And we actually have an upcoming study here at the MRC, at Newsbusters, that people can check out later today and tomorrow. We're going to do a whole study on John Harwood specifically and some of his worst, most biased quotes, most biased moments against Republicans, conservatives over the years, just to give people an informed view of kind of where he's coming from. So, that'll be something that people can take a look at and kind of know exactly who they're getting when they tune into that debate tomorrow night.
Well, let me ask you this, Kyle. I'm not that familiar with Harwood. I've heard and I've seen him on a couple of occasions. But do you expect some inflammatory statements made by him basically to get the ire of the Republican candidates, especially Donald Trump? Or what do you think he's going to do to motivate this debate tomorrow night?
Well, actually, one of the interesting things that we found in doing this study that we're working on is, back in last time around in 2011-2012 election cycle, Rick Perry had his famous oops moment in one of the debates. The person questioning him on that moment, at that moment, was John Harwood. And he actually revealed after the fact that, he had a producer, in his ear basically telling him, oh, stay with this. You're catching Rick Perry off guard, so stick with it and, don't let him off the hook. And that's what he did, because his producer was telling him to do that during that debate, and so that's what he kept doing. So, if that's what John Harwood did the last time he was moderating a Republican debate, is he tried to trip up one of the candidates, and when it looked like he was succeeding, he kept up the pressure on that candidate. So we'll have to sort of see if he tries to pull something like that this time, try to trip somebody up on something, and and try to make somebody look foolish on an issue, because that's essentially what he did to Rick Perry during the last election cycle.
Well, okay, let me go to the other side for a moment, Kyle. I see no reason, and you've got to help me on this, I see no reason to waste the time, waste the television time, and waste possible sponsor money in trying to have another Democratic debate with Snow White and the Four Dwarfs. I mean, what possibly could be done at the next Democratic debate? This is ridiculous.
Well, actually, it's really interesting because, since that debate, two of them have dropped out. Jim Webb dropped out as a Democrat. There's some talk about him running as an independent. I don't think he's made a decision on that, but he's out of so he won't be on the debate stage. Lincoln Chafee, former Rhode Island governor, he's stepped out of the Democratic race. So really, at this point, you got Hillary, and Joe Biden, of course, announced that he's not running. So now you have Hillary, Bernie Sanders, and Martin O'Malley are your only three Democrats who are going to show up on a stage if you do a debate. And actually, as I understand it, the next two debates are actually going to be on weekends. They're not even going to be during the week. So, it's sort of, it's this idea that the DNC and Hillary's campaign kind of work together to make sure that, there wouldn't be too many debates, so that way she wouldn't have too much of a challenge. So, I mean, it seems like that's working out pretty well for her at this point.
Let me ask you this, Kyle, and I got your letter that you had written about the GOP debate playing into the hands of Hillary Clinton. What did you mean by that the last debate basically played right into her poker hand and how she's going to use it for the media and also for potential voters?
Well, the last GOP debate was interesting because with the last GOP debate on CNN, they constantly were sort of pitting the candidates against each other. They were sort of, the moderator, Chuck Tapper, was sort of like going to one candidate and saying, oh, someone said this about you, and, so I want you to respond to them, or, someone attacked you, so, attack them back. That was really a lot of the focus of the debate, just because of the format was, pitting the Republican candidates against each other. So we'll have to see if they try and do the same thing with this debate. But yeah, I think definitely that, if the moderators kind of just want to keep it like as sort of a food fight between Republicans, then that is probably something that really is going to help the Democrats. So as long as it's sort of just encouraging the GOP candidates to fight amongst themselves rather than actually having a debate about ideas and issues and ways in which Republicans contrast with Democrats, that's one of the ways that the media can shape these debates, is they can get people distracted on sort of side issues, a clash of personalities, and not actually get into the substance of real issues and real contrasts with the other side.
Well, let me ask you this next question, and I was talking about this first hour this morning. Here we have a woman that has been a crook, has been a liar, and I'm not saying anything out of school. There have been some very devious and illegal things that have happened, and she's lied about them. She's held a very high position in the United States as Secretary of State. Now she's running for president, and the media has basically taken a great big white paintbrush and has made her past sparkling clean, and they will never say anything bad about Hillary. Boy, I mean, if you're anything but, if you're a Republican or an independent, you haven't got a prayer against this woman, do you?
Well, I mean, just look at the Benghazi committee hearing last Thursday, and and then all the coverage since then has been, oh my gosh, Hillary's had the best week ever. Hillary, she did such a great job in that debate, and she really showed those Republicans, and she's back on top now, and I mean, this has just been the whole tone and tenor of all the media coverage since then. So it's even when Hillary is struggling with poll numbers or any of her scandals or anything, the media is so eager to write that comeback story. Like the second they feel like, oh, okay, now she's past this the questions were like, oh, well, I guess she's put all this controversy behind her. I mean, that was the coverage that we saw Friday and then over the weekend. And so, yeah, I mean, there is this sense in the media that they are just so, when the Democrats are in trouble, they're so ready to write the comeback story, to write a story saying, well, all of this is behind them. They're fine now. So, you're definitely seeing that effort on the part of the press.
Let's look ahead a little bit and look into the crystal ball, Kyle. Let's assume that it is either Dr. Ben Carson or Donald Trump that gets the Republican nomination, and they're up on a stage with a debate against Hillary Clinton. Either one of those gentlemen are going to be really already going into that ball game with two strikes against them, because I honestly think the liberal media and this liberal attitude here in the United States with political correctness, if they address any of the problems that Hillary has had or has created or has been a part of, any illegalities, and they point that out during the debate, the news media is going to absolutely come out and paint them as the devil and evil. Am I wrong?
Well, I definitely think, one of the just usual liberal media strategies that we've found here is that, with the Clintons in particular, when you start bringing up Clinton scandals, no matter what they are, the media loves to just play the card of, well, that's old news. We covered that. Everybody knows about that. That's done. That's a dead issue. Why are you bringing that up? What's wrong with you? That issue's over. It's old news. So that's typically the tactic that you do see in the press, is that they'll just try and say, well, yes, we covered those scandals. Everybody talked about that already. That's old news. That's from like a year ago or a few months ago. So, there's no reason to even bring that up. That's not even an issue anymore. So that tends to be their tactic. And, I think, you get to the general election and the Republican nominee, whoever it is, brings that up. I think, you are going to see people in the press try and say, well, no one cares about that anymore. That's an old issue. So, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's what they try and do.
Wouldn't the same be fair in saying about the war on women? Isn't that kind of a dead issue? Hasn't that been discredited? Hasn't that been laid to rest? Hasn't this been proven not to be a part of any mantra for the Republicans, etc.? Or are they still going to play that card during the next election with Hillary or whomever that, there's a war on women from the GOP?
Well, I think Hillary and the Democrats would still love to use that line and use that attack against Republicans. But I do think we saw in the midterms, the 2014 midterms, you had Democrat candidates for Senate, for House, trying to use that line, and they just so overplayed it, and people voters, were smart enough to see through it at this point that, no, that's not working. And a lot of Democrats who tried that tactic actually lost races. So, it'll be interesting to see if that actually, sticks or not, or if Democrats really try and run with that or not, given that, most recently that really didn't pan out for them anymore, because I think voters are looking at all the problems going on in the country and the world, and I think are seeing that as a bigger issue than some left-wing rhetoric on the campaign trail.
Last question for you this morning, Kyle, and you research this every day as a news analyst, but in your opinion, is the American voter smarter than what the Democrats and Hillary think they are?
Yeah, I think the voters do understand a lot of these issues. They understand, some of the subtlety of some of these things. And, I think the voters actually do try to inform themselves on the issues. They don't just listen to, rhetoric from either side, really. I think voters are, they actually want to find out what's going on behind the rhetoric, behind the talking points. And so, I think especially on the Democratic side, they think they can just, Hillary's a woman, so, all the women are going to vote for her, or we'll have all these different constituencies, and they'll just all naturally vote for her, kind of without putting any thought into it. But I do actually think the voters out there, they want to be informed, they want to look at the issues and look at people's records. I think that's why, Hillary's trustworthiness went down with all of these scandals, because people look at her, they look at her record, they look at these scandals, and they say, you know what, I don't really think I can trust this person. So I think that right there actually gives you some evidence that the voters, don't just fall for anything that any piece of rhetoric that's out there, or any talking points. They actually kind of assess the candidates and come to their own judgment.
All right. News analyst for the Media Research Center, and he's a good guy, and I can't wait to have him back. Kyle Drennan, thank you for being on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me, Zeb.
All right, sir. Take care. Have a blessed day. We've got to get to the weather forecast. Thank you, Kyle. We've got to get to the weather real quick, and the weather brought to you this hour by Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Now, I'm going to give you 2 telephone numbers, and you need to write them down, because if you need tree trimming or pruning or removal of tree limbs or whatever to make sure your trees are going to be safe and not going through your picture window this winter, or if you need to get your sprinkler systems blown out before the cold, frigid temperatures freeze it up, you better get a hold of them today at 438-2485 or 431-8733. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. You give them a call today. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Weather for today, you better enjoy it, because tomorrow and especially on Thursday, a completely different story. Expecting sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, high of 57 with an overnight low of 32. Tomorrow, more clouds are going to be moving into the valley, high of 60 with an overnight low of 41. Thursday is going to be the game changer, at least right now anyway. We're looking at rain showers, and winds are going to be picking up out of the west right around 20 miles an hour for Thursday, high of 51 with an overnight low of 34. For Friday, it's going to be a little bit better. Partly cloudy, winds right around the southwest at 15 miles an hour, high of 55 with an overnight low of 40. And then for Saturday, partly cloudy and 64. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Well done. Thank you, Gina. Brought to everybody by Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. And by the way, Scott's got a brand new curbing machine, too. So if you need a new curber on your property, you know who to call. Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 438-2485 or 431-8733. How about we turn the next couple of, let's say 10 minutes into an open forum, and I would love for you to call, pick a topic, and we'll discuss it for a few moments on a beautiful Tuesday morning. And give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Open line, so give me a jingle right now if you would. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, don't forget our friends at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. And again, this is kind of a personal note along with an advertisement that they have a large selection of new firearms from Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester, and all the ammunition too. You know, right now, here's the personal side of this. I think more than ever before, we have to be cognizant about providing our own protection in our homes, for our family, and our property. And I really urge you to stop in and see these folks that are very knowledgeable at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Great customer service and all the accessories, too. Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. All right, it's your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear what you have to say. By the way, tonight, Game 1 of the 2015 World Series. Yes, sirree, between the Kansas City Royals and the New York Mets. It is really late in the year for the World Series. I can remember in high school, right around the 1st of October or whatever. Now things have changed, and we're going a full month almost later. It'll be November before this thing's over, and very easily in both locations, New York City for the Mets and Kansas City for the Royals, there could be 6 inches of snow on the ground before they finish this thing. World Series starting Game 1 tonight. All right, your turn. Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd love to hear your opinion on quite a few things. Maybe it's a topic that we talked about earlier this morning, or maybe it's something you'd like to talk about right now. Give me a jingle on the landline, and we'll discuss it. Once again, I've got to get this note in here real quick while I'm waiting for your call. That a couple of things, as a matter of fact. Mike Campbell sent me this note about a big dinner and raffle that's coming up, and this is the 4th annual dinner and raffle for the Veterans Helping Veterans, Combat Veterans Association, and it's a fundraiser spaghetti dinner and raffle to help raise money to help veterans, sponsored by the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association and the Veterans Helping Veterans, chapters of Twin Falls, Burley, Rupert, and Idaho Falls. This is going to take place Saturday, November 7th at the River Christian Fellowship Church in Twin Falls, and the dinner starts at 5, and the time of the raffle is 7 p.m. Don't miss it, and hope everybody can be in attendance, okay? All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear what you have to say. 10 o'clock this morning, we're going to have Dr. History on our program. And then at 10:30 this morning, we're going to have Dr. Andrew Bostom. Now, he's been on my program many times in the past, and we're going to be talking about what's going on over in Israel with the Palestinians and Hamas just absolutely on a killing spree against Israel. That'll be coming up at 10:32 this morning. You don't want to miss this. They have taken a survey of high school kids, and the new survey findings said that when asked how they feel during the school day, U.S. high school students consistently invoked 3 key feelings: tired, stressed, and bored. And one of the researchers, I'll get to that in just a moment. Let's take this call. I don't want to keep them waiting. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Not to change the subject, but I was reading that Austria's firearms sale has skyrocketed because of the immigrants that are trying to troop through their country to get over to Germany, who's laid out a door.
That's right.
Welcome that.
That's right.
Muslim extremists is what I view them as, that are moving across the country, destroying their nation.
And,
interesting.
And I'll tell you something, Riley, it's going to happen here. It's just common sense that in this country there is going to be a change of culture. There's going to be a change of forced diversity. And I don't know about you, but I am not very trusting of a group of people coming here, masses of people coming here, that, number one, don't like us. They don't like our culture. They don't like our standard and way of living. And I'm a little bit more than leery, and yes, I'm going to be watchful and very protective.
You know, I agree with you on that. They were saying in the article that the residents of some of these towns where these refugees are being put are told if they don't like it, then they can leave.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of kind of backwards of the situation of, this is their home to begin with, and you're telling them that they have to leave so some refugee can come destroy their country.
Yeah, but Riley, it's not only...
smart thing to do.
Riley, it's not only there in Austria with people saying this. Let me tell you a direct quote from Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton. And he is urging the federal government to bring more Syrian Muslim refugees into Minnesota. And here's what he told people that were against it. If you are that intolerant, and if you are that much of a racist or a bigot, then go find another state to live.
Well, then that's about time that somebody kicks that guy out of office.
Well, see, the thing is, Riley...
I don't know who started it, but I feel that our dear Americans being sold bits and pieces to different parts of the world right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
And we've been sold along with it, and there's nothing that, I guess, nothing we can do, or is it nothing that we're willing to do?
Well, I am really shocked.
Down to bloodshed and tyranny, and those that are fighting aren't being heard, aren't being listened to, aren't being dismissed as racists and bigots and hate mongers. And all we want is just peace and to be able to live in peace.
If you don't go along... Wait a minute, Riley, you're rambling. If you don't go along with what the left wants to try to impose on us, even right here in the Twin Falls area with CSI and, of course, the Times News, we're not the only place where this is happening, and we're not the only place where people are fed up with it. There are petition drives and rallies going on in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota, California, North Dakota against bringing these refugees in, and I think it's going to be a growing source of worry and concern, and I salute these people for asking questions about what the government is trying to impose on them.
I do too, and I sure hope that we can get it figured out before it's too late.
All right, buddy.
I need to let you go, my friend, and I will talk to you another day.
All right, Riley. Thank you much for your call. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Don't forget Scouts CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts, Rupert, Hayburn, and Burley. And since 1949, every detail matters. Parts sales and service. They've got a location at 323 East 8th and Highway 25 in Rupert, along with 518 Overland and Burley, and the Big Truck Center, Scouts Truck Center, I-84 exit 211. And we had our guest on there yesterday talking about the big Mahindra tractors. They've got it all for you. And right now, prepare for winter with the batteries and all the liquids for your engines and everything else. Scouts CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts. They are simply the best since, like I said, 1949, serving you and your autos. Scouts CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts in Rupert, Burley, and Hayburn. We're going to take a little break, and then when we come back, it's going to, be Dr. History for this Tuesday. And you're listening to Zeb at the Ranch. Make sure you're hearing everything. Contact Mount Harrison Audiology for a hearing screening. Call 312-0957 today. Stay tuned. CBS News is next. I'll be back in 6. Oh, good morning, and welcome back, hour number 3. As we get ready for this third hour, I want to say thank you very much. Zeb at the Ranch, sponsored by your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And also, let's not forget some of our great advertisers, like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service today, 734-6969. Wonderful people. Before we go with our guest this morning, and that's, of course, Dr. History, we're going to also tell you a little bit about what's going on over at the Chadwick real quick. Today, Tuesday, they've got spaghetti and meatballs. Basho, it's so good, that Italian food, you're going to love it. With garlic toast and super salsa salad. Salsa salad, that sounds good. Spaghetti and meatballs today at the Chadwick Sports Grill. That is their special, along with all the other delicious menu choices at 139 West Main in Burley. You get in there and check it out today. Spaghetti and meatballs at the Chadwick. Going to be good. On Thursdays, we have a segment that we're very, very happy with and proud of, and that's, of course, School Days in Cache County, brought to you by A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. And today is Grandparents' Day at A Child's World. 10% discount on your purchases at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And also sponsored by the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue. The number to call and save money on your surgeries, 677-8888. Don't forget life-saving colonoscopies, cataract surgery, knee, hand, and foot surgery, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center, along with the Child's World, bringing you School Days in Cache County. But right now, it's time for one of my absolute favorite segments on the radio program, and that's, of course, Dr. History, brought to you by Minnecash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport with Zach and the crew, Minnecash Sales. And good morning to Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing today?
You know, I look forward to today for 2 reasons. Number 1, I never know where you're going to go. And number 2, it's always entertaining.
Well, good.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to tell you about a guy that a little bit of a questionable character in the Old West.
Weren't they all?
They all were. So, if the words of Henry Starr can be trusted, this outlaw, whose crimes bridged the 19th and early 20th centuries, left a buried treasure in southwest Kansas somewhere.
Oh, really?
The truth of this legend kind of rests with his credibility, which can be questionable, because if you know what I mean.
So you're saying that maybe he didn't rob, maybe he didn't hide the treasure, or what?
No, he robbed.
He robbed.
It's just a question of whether or not you can believe that he actually buried some treasure down in there. So let's start with old Henry Starr.
Okay.
Born December 2nd, 1873 at Fort Gibson in eastern Indian Territory, which is now Oklahoma. His father was a half-breed Cherokee. His mother was a one-quarter Cherokee and some Irish ancestry, and she actually came from a very well-respected family.
Really?
Well-educated. But Henry's father came from a little bit of a unsavory group of family characters there. In fact, Henry's grandfather was named Tom Starr. He was an outlaw. And Henry's uncle was Sam Starr, an outlaw who married the famous Bellstar.
Really?
Yeah. So there's an intermixing of, like I say, some unsavory characters in this family.
Well, no, she assumed his name then of Starr.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
So anyway, young Henry Starr grew up in what we would call the lawless part of Indian Territory. The northeastern part of Indian Territory was full of outlaws, many of whom had fled to the Indian nation to avoid the law.
Right.
You see, at the time, there was no extradition for criminals caught in Indian Territory.
Right. So
they could zip over there and just live off what they'd stolen or whatever.
And you know, I've read many books about that, and boy, you talk about a cutthroat society. You had to watch your back all the time.
I mean, there was no law at all.
Yep,
so
that's right.
So when Henry Starr was about 13, his father died, leaving his mother with the task of raising 3 children, running the family. Well, she soon remarried, and Henry's stepfather, they didn't get along. And Henry didn't think much of him either. And anyway, the boy and his stepfather, they argued a lot. Henry was beaten, and pretty soon he ran away from home. Mm-hmm. So he had his first run-in with the law when he was about 18. He was working on a ranch when a lawman arrested him for stealing another man's horse. Now, as Henry later wrote in his autobiography, the horse had wandered onto the ranch where Henry was working. He took care of the animal for about a month until the owner came and claimed the horse.
That's feasible.
Yeah. And Henry wrote that the owner thanked him profusely and for taking care of the horse, but after the man left, he swore out a warrant for Henry Starr's arrest.
Uh-oh.
Well, Starr was taken before Judge Isaac Parker. Court in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and he remained in jail until the charges were dismissed for lack of evidence. So Starr was free, but this is the beginning of a whole series of things. Anyway, he was free.
So they kind of teed him off.
Yeah, he did. But, the short time he was behind bars kind of changed him. I mean, he lost respect for the law. He rode his horse back into Indian Territory, which, again, was pretty rough. He said he thought about how about a person could beat the law. He started thinking about that. So pretty soon, Starr and two other young men, a guy named Ed Newcomb and Jesse Jackson, decided to rob a railroad.
Jesse Jackson?
Jesse Jackson.
He was troublemaking all the way back then?
That's him. They decided it would be a good idea to rob a railroad depot. So in 1892, they escaped with $1,700, but Starr's identity was soon discovered. He was arrested, taken back to Fort Smith, where he pleaded not guilty. He was released on $2,000 bond. He quickly returned to Indian Territory, determined never to return to Judge Parker's area.
I see.
So, when Starr did not appear in court at Fort Smith, Deputy U.S. Marshal Floyd Wilson was sent to bring him in. Well, Wilson found Starr and called him to stop. Gunfire erupted. The facts are a little hazy, but according to Starr's recollection, Wilson and another lawman fired first. Starr fired back, he said in self-defense, of course. Wilson fell to the ground. The other man took off on a run. Starr walked up to Wilson and fired several more bullets into the body to make sure.
Yeah, well, you never know. They might sneak up on you.
Yeah, so Wilson was the only person that Starr actually killed during his life of crime.
I see.
So that's the only time he actually killed somebody.
Okay. Time for a water break.
Got to have a drink. Well, Starr rode off and soon teamed up with a guy named Frank Cheney, who was a farmer. And they made off with more than $400 when they robbed a train depot and two stores. Within a few days, they held up another depot and a store, another $400. But these robberies did not produce much cash. You got to pick something a little more lucrative, I guess. So Starr decided they should rob a bank.
Mm-hmm.
So he began analyzing how to rob a bank and concluded that daylight hours were the best. So Starr and Cheney crossed the border into Kansas. They walked into the Caney National Bank and drew their revolvers. Cheney went into the vault, filled a bushel sack with money, and they got away with more than $5,000. Cheney apparently returned to farming, satisfied with what he'd done. Henry was becoming a wanted man.
Really?
So
the other guy got away scot-free?
Oh, yeah. Went back to his farm and lived happily ever after. But Starr
and a new plow.
And a new plow, yeah. But Starr realized there was more money in robbing banks, and about 3 months later, he rode into Bentonville, Arkansas. This time he had 4 men with him. Well, inside they took as much money as they could carry until they heard the gunfire outside the bank. Well, the outlaws fled, only to be chased by a posse. The robbers, however, managed to escape. This time they got away with $11,999.
Okay, $999 exactly.
$999 exactly.
Okay.
So, but anyway, Starr was blamed for the Bentonville bank robbery, and he became even more of a wanted man. And lawmen distributed wanted posters, some of which included his photograph, and he realized he was not very safe in public.
Now, what year was this?
This was 1893.
93.
Yep.
Okay.
So he headed off to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and there he was recognized, and 4 policemen arrested him. So here we go. Starr faced 1 count of murder and 13 counts of highway robbery. Starr's trial focused on his killing of the deputy marshal, and he was found guilty and sentenced to die on the gallows. Well, the case was appealed, and Starr's sentence was commuted by the United States Supreme Court, and a new trial was granted.
Okay, right there, we're going to leave a cliffhanger.
Okay.
Yeah, the serial will continue in just a moment, but right now, it's time to tell you about Minnecash Sales with Zach and the gang at 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. Zach wanted me to let you know that they've got carpet right now on sale for $13.50 per yard, normally retailing at $17.99. $14.99. Ho-ho! Save you money. And also some vinyl for $9.99, normally retailing for $15.99. You better not pass this up. Get in there today and check out, too, the Western Windows. Save on your heating bills this winter. And also all the Tartar Farm and Ranch gates and panels at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, bringing you Dr. History.
So here we go. Soon, Starr's second trial was held, and again he was found guilty of murder, sentenced to die. The case was again appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court overturned his conviction and granted him a third trial.
Oh, my.
So here we go. His third trial was held in 1897. He pleaded guilty to manslaughter and was given 3 years in jail. For his other crimes, he was given 7 years, and Starr was taken to the federal prison at Columbus, Ohio, where he was a model prisoner. Just an excellent young man.
Oh, boy.
Starr's mother went to Washington, D.C., and was granted an interview with President Theodore Roosevelt.
How old was he by this time?
I don't know.
Oh.
I'd have to guess. I'm going to say about 30.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, I can do the math.
Okay.
It'd take me a while. So she told her son's story, and Roosevelt wired Starr and asked him if he would behave himself if he were pardoned.
Oh, really?
Well, Starr said, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was determined to follow the straight and narrow path, and so Starr was pardoned in 1903 after serving only 3 years of his 15-year sentence.
Oh, my.
So Henry Starr returned to Tulsa. He married, and he and his wife had a child. They named Theodore Roosevelt Starr.
Really?
In honor of. But anyway, he felt like a free man until he learned that authorities in Arkansas were still after him for other things that he'd done. So anyway, so he thought, what the heck? So Starr again started to rob banks. This time with a guy named Kid Wilson. He robbed the state bank in Kansas. When they reached Colorado, they found a bank that looked too good to pass up, according to Starr, so they got away with $1,100, and then they split up. Now, what happened to Kid Wilson is not known, but Starr spent the summer and fall in 1908 in New Mexico. Well, lawmen located Starr, arrested him for the Colorado bank, and tried him, sent him to the state prison in Colorado.
Here we go again.
Again, he was a model prisoner. He was soon made a trustee. You know, good guy.
Yeah.
He was paroled on the condition that he never leave Colorado.
You be good now.
Yeah, I can't believe this. Anyway, Starr promised he would be a good guy.
Yeah.
He promised. He
sounds like an Obama administration person.
He promised he would not leave, and so as soon as he was released, or that he wouldn't come back to Colorado. Leave Colorado. So now he's going to Oklahoma.
Oh, back home.
Yeah. Well, the lawmen searched. He robbed 14 different banks. Each bank was robbed during daylight hours, and there's about one robbery every 2 weeks. The total take in robberies was about $26,000.
Really?
Not a bad paycheck for back then.
Yeah.
So anyway, lawmen searched for Starr. He was living comfortably only 2 blocks from the sheriff's office in Tulsa.
Are you kidding me?
He was right there, 2 blocks away from the sheriff's office.
With his family?
I think so, yeah. And it was there that he apparently decided to rob 2 banks at the same time. Figured that'd be a good plan.
Yeah.
Okay. So he put together a gang of 8 men. The 8 men rode their horses into Stroud, Oklahoma, tied their horses to a fence. One member of the gang watched the horses, while the other 7 remaining members divided into 2 groups. Starr and 2 men headed for the Stroud National Bank, while the other 4 outlaws walked to the First National Bank 1 block away.
It's always the First National.
It's never the second.
No.
So at the Stroud National Bank, Starr left 1 man outside the door to guard. As Starr and another outlaw entered the bank, they drew their guns and announced this was a holdup. And in the meantime, the 4 other outlaws had entered the First National Bank. Well, the outlaws, they tossed an empty sack to the cashier, who went into the vault, got $4,500, and $2,300 of it was actually in gold.
Really?
So that had to be a little bit heavy.
A little heavy, yeah.
So the 2 branches of the outlaws soon met outside the First National Bank. They headed to the stockyards and where their horses were. But by then, the townspeople were learning about the robberies.
Well, how slow were these guys?
Well, they must have been a little slow. That's all I can say.
Stop for a donut or something?
So it was then that a teenager named Paul Curry, armed with a short-barreled rifle, fired at Starr. Okay, the bullet struck Starr in the leg, and he collapsed against a wire fence. He fell to the ground. Curry shouted to Starr, he says, "Throw your gun or I'll kill you." Well, Starr, being a little smarter than some, did as he was told.
Yeah.
So Starr was carried to a doctor's office, and his leg bone was shattered clear up by the hip, not in very good shape. But meanwhile, the other outlaws had reached their horses, mounted, and they were riding as fast as they could go.
With all the money.
With all the money, and townspeople firing after them. So the 6 remaining outlaws escaped. Okay, so here we go. Starr goes to trial again.
Yeah, wait a minute. Now, he recuperated.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
From this injury.
Okay.
So this time he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Again, Starr.
Oh, now wait a minute.
You guessed it. A model prisoner.
Yeah.
And now he's 45 years old.
Okay.
And he spoke about his foolishness in following a life of crime. He was paroled in 1919, and for 2 years he lived an honest life. Now this is kind of interesting. It got into the silent motion picture business.
Really? With the old guys like Tom Mix and those?
Yeah, and he produced and starred in a movie called A Debtor to the Law, which I've never heard of, but anyway.
Oh, it was a big one.
It was a big one. And this actually depicted the Stroud Bank robberies in which he was.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So
he starred in a movie that,
in which he had been.
Goodness sakes.
Well, Starr went on to produce 2 other movies, and he even received an offer from Hollywood to do a movie. Well, he turned the offer down, which maybe he shouldn't have.
Because he went back to robbing banks.
Well, Starr could not take a dull and honest life. He apparently missed the excitement and the adventure of robbing banks. So here we are in 1921. Starr and 3 other men robbed a bank.
Oh,
and
for heaven's
as Starr was gathering the money in the vault, a former president of the bank grabbed a Winchester rifle in a corner and shot Starr in the back.
Uh-oh.
Starr lingered for about 3 days after the robbery. He boasted to those with him that he had robbed more banks than any man in America. And in February 1921, he died.
He died. They finally got him. And the court didn't give him a reprieve.
They did not.
Okay.
But it's not known whether Henry Starr actually buried some of his loot from the earlier robberies, but he apparently made a statement while he was in Colorado at the state penitentiary that many treasure hunters have tried to find the location of that treasure, and if it is buried there, it's somewhere along what's called the Cimarron River. Have you heard of the Cimarron?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. And in the extreme southwest country in Kansas, somewhere down in there.
Yeah.
So was he telling the truth? Did he bury some of his early loot? Who knows? He's dead, and nobody's, as far as we know, never found it.
What was the matter with this guy if he had A, family, B, a home, had what looks to be like a fairly consistent job with the movie business?
Yeah.
And he wanted to go back and rob banks?
Yeah. Let me show you a picture of this guy. He's kind of a good-looking guy.
That's yours to discern, but I couldn't care less. But, he kind of, in a way, resembles a guy that was a crook back in the old days. Starr was his name.
It does, but he looks kind of clean cut, no beard or mustache, just kind of.
But mentally, he must have been a little deficient.
Yeah.
Why do bad guys always have to go 360 and keep coming back?
I don't know if it's something in their system that the excitement of the robbery.
Yeah, but what's exciting about getting shot with a Winchester?
Yeah, I don't know.
Man.
Something kind of interesting, though, too. He did not want to be buried.
What?
He wanted to be cremated.
Really?
Yeah, and so his wife...
she stuck with him?
She stuck with him, yeah. And so his remains are buried at Dewey, Oklahoma, supposedly, where the cremated remains of his body are.
Yeah.
So...
Okay.
But
the pride of Oklahoma.
Yeah, this Starr family, like I say, their gene pool wasn't too good.
Well, yeah, but I question why he had all kinds of breaks.
Yeah.
The governors,
the president.
And the president commuting his sentences and everything.
Yeah.
What in the world did he not understand about walk the straight and narrow?
Again, it's these guys, I think they're adrenaline junkies or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But what you said about Oklahoma, I got a book somewhere on those shelves, and I can't find it just offhand, but it was all about the Indian nations of Oklahoma and how all the bad guys would go over there and hide. That was a pretty wild place.
Yeah, even if you were a lawman, you really wouldn't want to go into that area.
No.
Because, the odds were against you of even getting out of there.
Yeah. Well, didn't we here in Idaho had some buried treasure, like right over at the City of Rocks that they never found too, right?
Right. That's the robbery that occurred over by Pocatello.
Yeah.
2 guys. One guy was killed. The other guy was wounded. Made his way over to the City of Rocks, buried the treasure.
Right.
He wandered into a camp and told the man in the camp that he had buried the treasure south of and in sight of the Twin Sisters, which is in the City of Rocks.
Right.
Anyway, and then he died.
He died.
So this guy that he told this to, he searched and searched and searched, and he never could find the gold.
Really? It's still up there?
Well, that's questionable.
Oh.
Because, as I've mentioned before on treasure hunters, if you find gold or a treasure and you say, hey, look what I found, this belongs to Wells Fargo.
Oh, they'll take it back.
They'll take it back.
Yeah.
And so I think there's treasure that's been discovered that the people have said, I'm just going to kind of keep this quiet.
But it's kind of hard to fence that stuff because of the age and the antiquity of it, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking if you did find it,
where would you go
in our
with
day? Yeah, what would you do? And I don't know. Would you melt it down and make gold bars?
Yeah, like those treasure hunters off the coast of Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, holy smokes.
Yeah. Now, there was some, in 1974, some saddlebags with gold found in the City of Rocks.
Really?
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
But it was a different robbery.
Oh.
They were able to figure out that this came
Was that the one that you were connected with?
Yeah, some of my relatives, maybe. I do have relatives up there by the City of Rocks, up the Alamo area. So,
really?
Yeah, but...
that's interesting. I didn't know that. They were just laying out in plain sight, or what?
No, I don't know really the details of how they found the gold, the saddlebags.
Yeah.
I think they were buried, and somehow maybe the wind and the weather wore down the dirt enough to where they found that gold.
Holy cow. Maybe you and I ought to do the next broadcast from up at the City of Rocks.
That would be fun.
That would be fun. What are we going to talk about next week?
That's a great story.
Hey, can't wait to hear.
I could tell you about Bellstar.
Well, you did that a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yeah,
I guess we can't do Bell again.
Yeah, let's not do Bell again.
Okay.
But let's try to pick something closer to home. Should we?
I actually was visiting with somebody that has a story from this area, and he's supposed to be getting that to me.
Oh.
So I'm hoping that I can get a local story for next week.
Well, you did it again, Dr. History, and I've got to say thank you to you and also Minnecasia Sales with Zach and the rest of the crew at 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Don't forget all the carpet and all the vinyl and all the western windows, everything at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, bringing you Dr. History. Have a great week. Don't work too hard, which is a foolish thing to say, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
All right, you have a good day, Zach.
All right, God bless you. Hey, while he's wrapping things up, I want to remind you, too, about Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. Qualified rebates on Lennox home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Call them at 678-0459, Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox. Also, don't forget the Denny's football game of the week, and we're going to be announcing that game, what it's going to be for this week. You pick the winning team and the closest to the final score, and you will receive a free Grand Slam breakfast from Denny's at 611 Overland in Burley. We'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Right now, let's send it back over to our main studios. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying tuned. I've really been looking forward to having this next gentleman on my program. He's been here before, and very, very interesting, and knows all about what's going on in the Middle East, especially with Hamas and the Jews right now in Israel. And we say a good morning to Dr. Andrew Bostom. How are you, Doctor?
Thanks very much for having me on again, Zeb.
It is my pleasure, and I got to admit, I read through everything that was sent to me regarding the posting of what's happening over in Israel and the proclamations of death and absolute mayhem against the Jews from what's happening in Hamas. I can't even imagine in a civilized society, supposedly today, all these things that are happening. Bring us up to speed as to how absolutely incredibly ghoulish this is in Israel right now?
Well, it's unfortunately, Zeb, it's not just Hamas. I mean, on one hand, Hamas really is the popular voice of the Palestinian Muslims, sadly. They were, in fact, the only elected government. But it's also coming through the so-called moderate Palestinian Authority. There's a media campaign of just really gruesome images and Facebook postings and hashtags on Twitter even. So, for example, Hamas, not Hamas, again, the Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, put out an image which has a Jew in a yarmulke, and there's a knife protruding looks like to me like in the trapezius muscle, right between the neck and the shoulder, and he's screaming in pain. And it says, "Stab the Israelis, stone the Israelis." There are individual Muslims putting social media postings and hashtags out, such as "poison the knife before you stab" or "slaughtering the Jews." But I think what's worse is the fact that you have both Palestinian Authority and Hamas clerics nonchalantly giving formal sermons which invoke, unfortunately, the worst anti-Semitic themes from Islam as the ultimate source of this kind of incitement. There was one very quickly that was a sermon that was videotaped on October 9th from Gaza, where the cleric is invoking Muhammad's dealings with the Jews of Medina, a particular tribe, the Banu Qurayza. And just real briefly, is that the idea behind this is that Muhammad isolates and threatens a Jewish tribe, and he uses a Quranic verse, by the way. I don't know whether your listeners are familiar, but they might have vaguely in their memories heard the Jews in the Middle East referred to as apes and pigs or sons of apes and pigs. That's actually a Quranic verse. That's from the 5th surah, chapter of the Quran, the 60th verse. At any rate, Muhammad is alleged to have repeated this verse in a very menacing way to this Jewish tribe, and then ultimately he besieges them, they surrender, and he assigns as an arbiter of fate this one of his followers who in an earlier generation had been wounded by this tribe. So he has an axe to grind against. And then, of course, he gives Muhammad the verdict that he wants, which is that all these surrendering male prisoners, post-pubescent boys to adult males, should be beheaded. Oh. And who beheads them? It's Muhammad himself, according to the Muslim biographies, who beheads some 600 to 900 of these Jews. So, at any rate, getting back to that sermon on October 9th, the Muslim cleric in Gaza is saying that Saad ibn Muad, this arbiter who ultimately gave Muhammad the right to go ahead and execute the Jews by beheading, is alive and amongst the Muslims, and he's rendered his verdict. So in other words, he takes this sacred scene and repeats it as the current verdict, and then goes on to talk about stabbing and killing Jews in this sermon. And so that's a very essential level of incitement. It's purely an Islamic religious incitement that is ultimately, I think, behind this wave of violence.
Doctor, I'm sitting here listening to you, and I am absolutely shocked, if you will, as to why our administration, our government, and quite frankly our country cannot understand and realize that, yes, right now there is a holy war going on in this world, and it's getting worse day by day, but it seems like this administration and this current government absolutely sweeps it under the rug. Am I wrong?
Oh, absolutely, Zeb, but only I would say this has been going on a long time.
And I really want your viewers to understand that even Prime Minister Netanyahu, he's given voice to a lot of the fundamental, hypocrisy, and he invoked, for example, the godfather of the Palestinian movement, Hashemi El-Husani, who was issuing calls for mass murder of the Jews going back to the 1920s. So long before there were disputed territories or the question of settlements, etc. And Netanyahu's ultimate point was that this form of incitement has nothing to do with the current political situation. But when he talks about the incitement itself, and this is now Prime Minister Netanyahu, even he refrains from mentioning the deep mainstream canonical Islamic roots to this, because it's a bridge too far even for Prime Minister Netanyahu, because he knows that if he were to relate this in a very completely intellectually honest and forthright way, people would realize that this isn't going to go away, Zeb. And I think that's exactly the mentality that has taken over. There are all kinds of other cynical reasons and political reasons, but to give people in general the benefit of the doubt, I think part of the reason that this is not discussed, the way I'm discussing it with you now, is that it lends an air of hopelessness to the situation, that unless there's some sort of dramatic enlightenment of Islam itself, these kinds of conflicts are going to go on indefinitely, Jeb.
How much, in your opinion, and you've written books like Iran's Final Solution for Israel, and you know more about this than most people, but how much has the supposed farce of the Iranian nuclear deal with the United States helped contribute to what's going on right now?
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's not unreasonable. I mean, any sort of concession to this, this mentality, this jihadist, overall jihadist mentality, and sure, Iran is just the Shiite version of this global jihad. They actually have, as we've discussed in the past, they actually have the ideology of jihad embedded right in their constitution. It basically declares them to be a jihadist state. So any sort of concession to this, any sort of continued denial of acknowledging this is going to encourage things on a more practical level. Iran provides funds to Hamas, for example. But absolutely, any sort of sign of weakness in not dealing with this issue forthrightly is always going to ratchet things up. But of course, there's also just this very insidious propaganda about, for example, the Temple Mount and Al-Aqsa Mosque, where the claim was made to gin things up that somehow the Israeli government was engaged in activities that would destroy the area, that would encourage its destruction. And this has always been used as a rallying cry ever since the '67 war, certainly when Israel regained control of the holy sites, including its own holy sites, of course, which is never acknowledged. But again, so that was part of this current wave of violence. But yeah, I think the Iranians are very aggressive in promoting. They have something called Al-Quds Day, which is Arabic really for Jerusalem. And this is an issue that is used to incite against Israel and against Jews by the entire global Muslim community.
Doctor, let me ask you this. What about our news media here in this country? Have they completely gone so completely left and liberal that they won't report the facts and give an honest appraisal of what's happening over there?
Well, I will say one thing that they will not deal with, Zeb. Now, to the credit of Fox News, they at least have discussed some of these, hashtags and videos that deal with the incitement of stabbing as incitement of violence. They, of course, will not even mention the sermon that I discussed, which is very explicit, very Islamic. So even conservative media outlets, mainstream conservative media outlets, do not deal with the overt religious content, the Islamic content
the behaviors of Muhammad. They will never deal with that. The left, forget about it. I mean, the left is still playing the moral equivalence game that somehow, Israel bears the same responsibility as the Palestinian Authority and Hamas for what's going on. I mean, so they are completely lost, and that also would include, unfortunately, large elements of our State Department. But Zeb, no one across the political spectrum is dealing honestly with the fundamental Islamic basis of the incitement and the conflict itself.
Let me ask you this. You have been very, very articulate, and also your writings have really laid bare what the facts are and what's going on in the Middle East. But what about you? Are you concerned about your safety for coming out and laying out these examples as far as what's going on with Islam around the world?
No, not my physical safety. What it does is make you, persona non grata in, even unfortunately, with conservative media, mainstream conservative media, no one wants to deal with this sort of forthright discussion. So it's a form of, you're a social pariah. But no, I don't feel physically threatened, and I just want to say though, Zeb, to give you sort of my background is in epidemiology, and I'm a professor of medicine, but I deal with data all the time, whether it's clinical trials or observational studies, and I've always tried to follow this through the prism of looking at what objective data tell us about attitudes. And so, for example, I don't know if you know the name, it's actually a pollster who has worked and probably will work again for Hillary Clinton, but he's a liberal pollster, Stanley Greenberg, done a lot of work for the Clintons, political polling. I don't know how, but he wound up in Israel doing a very interesting poll back in the summer of 2011. And what he found was, and I'm sure he wasn't happy with these findings, but what he found was that 73% of the Palestinians in Judea Samaria, the West Bank, and Gaza abide this canonical hadith. It's one of the traditions of Muhammad, where Muhammad himself talks about how to usher in Islam's messianic age, the Jews had to be annihilated. And this was incorporated into the Hamas charter. It's actually Article 7. 73%, according to Greenberg's poll of over 1,000 Palestinians, of the Palestinian Muslims, currently abide that hadith. 80% feel on a political level, so that hadith is actually genocidal, but 80% on a political level, with regard to the state of Israel, feel that the state of Israel should be destroyed through jihad, which happens to be Article 15 of the Hamas Charter. So the constant indoctrination that you're getting has real measurable effects on the attitudes of the population. And again, that's something else our mainstream media across the political spectrum doesn't want to discuss.
Slightly changing the approach on this conversation, let me ask you this, Doctor, in the time remaining. We are looking at a big insurgency of Muslim refugees coming out of Syria and being allocated to various parts of the United States, one right here less than 15 miles from my home. We are very concerned about this because the vetting process has not been thorough. We don't know about these people. We certainly know about their culture and worry about that. What are your thoughts about the increasing numbers of Muslim refugees going to all points of the compass here?
Well, look, you just take a look at the havoc that they're creating in Europe, and finally, despite the sort of mass socialist state that the EU has unfortunately created for itself, the European Union, populations are up in arms about this, about the chaos that's created by bringing in basically 70%, I understand, 75% are battle-aged males. It's an unbelievably self-destructive situation when, if they're truly refugees fleeing war zones that are created by Islamic conflicts in the Middle East, then they should be given safe haven in areas of Turkey, in areas, of the Gulf states, where there is some stability. It's absurd for them to be coming into Europe. And now even the United States, I understand the estimates are that there could be 200,000. I think the only way to deal with this is to, on the local level, orchestrate protests. And the other thing I will tell you, Zeb, is that even in terms of the humanitarian situation, it's the victimizer class, i.e. the Muslims, that are being allowed into various havens, whether it's Western Europe, Eastern Europe, the United States now possibly. It's not even the true victims who are the non-Muslim populations in these areas, the Yazidis, the Christians that have been targeted mercilessly by ISIS and other jihadist groups. There I think there is a legitimate refugee situation that should be dealt with. And, the Eastern European countries are very much opposed to this, and some of them are holding steadfast. And frankly, they have an historical memory that's much closer in time to perhaps Western Europe, and certainly the United States doesn't have any, which is their conquest and occupation for half a millennium by the Ottoman Empire, with all the brutality that entailed: massacre, pillage, enslavement, deportation, and they weren't really free of that yoke in Eastern Europe until the World War I era. So that's a historical memory that's still alive with them, and they are not accepting this wave of so-called refugees.
Wow. I cannot wait to have you come back in the future. I'm so sorry I'm out of time in this segment. Dr. Andrew Bostom, I appreciate it so much, author of Iran's Final Solution for Israel. Please consent to coming back in the near future. I've got 1,000 more questions, but God bless you for your openness and frankness this morning. I'll be in touch. Thank you again.
Take care, Zeb.
Take care. Thank you. All I can say is I thank that man so much for coming on our programs and opening up our eyes as to what's really, really happening with the genocide and the killing and the stabbing and the shooting and the poisoning that's going on of the Jewish population right there in their home country of Israel, and promoted and instigated by Islam. And don't think for a minute it's not going to come here. We're going to have the weather forecast right now, and it's brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Your hometown meat cutter, locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. And they guarantee everything that they sell. And don't forget, they process all the big game, too. If you've been a big game hunter, deer, elk, etc., you be sure and give them a call, and they can make that wild game bacon. It is delicious. Scarrows Meats in Jerome, 324-7657. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Weather for today, you better enjoy it because tomorrow and especially on Thursday, a completely different story. Expecting sunny skies for today, slightly breezy, high of 57 with an overnight low of 32. Tomorrow, more clouds are going to be moving into the valley, high of 60 with an overnight low of 41. Thursday is going to be the game changer, at least right now anyway. We're looking at rain showers and winds are going to be picking up out of the west right around 20 miles an hour for Thursday, high of 51 with an overnight low of 34. For Friday, it's going to be a little bit better. Partly cloudy, winds right around the southwest at 15 miles an hour, high of 55 with an overnight low of 40. And then for Saturday, partly cloudy and 64. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, thank you, Gina. And brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. And it's true, they're changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Let's take a look real quick and see what we got cooking for tomorrow. Dave Bego from Indianapolis, Indiana is going to be on the program. And then, I got to be honest with you, I got a lot of work to do before tomorrow to line up the other segments on this program. But, of course, the first hour, the open forum with, of course, your calls on various subjects. So tune in tomorrow morning, Zeb at the Ranch, and we'll make it interesting, okay? Let's not forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. has all 7 locations with the best brake value promise in the industry. Professionally trained technicians, premium quality parts, and the brake industry's best warranty. And of course, along with your brakes, the shocks and the struts, the front end alignments, don't let those tires wear off. You paid a lot of money for them. Take care of them. And don't forget the best in tires. I mean, they've got all the tires you need for your safe driving with your car, your pickup, your SUVs, horse trailers, snow machine trailers. It's all there. These folks know tires, and they can help you. And the batteries on these chillier fall mornings. Don't forget to stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, and of course John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, absolutely the best. Okay, let's see. I had something else I needed to mention real quick, and another reminder that the second annual Pilgrim Pride Dinner, I've been asked about that a couple of times, is coming up on November 19th at the Golden Heritage Senior Center, 2421 Overland Avenue in Burley, 5 to 7:30 p.m. You don't have to be there through the entirety to win the door prizes. $10 per ticket, and if your name is called, we'll make sure we notify you for the coming and getting of that door prize, all right? And I want to remind you that this is very important, for the proceeds go to the Meals on Wheels for our seniors. Please support it like you did last year. It was outstanding. Second annual Pilgrim Pride Dinner, Golden Heritage Senior Center, November 19th from 5 to 7:30 p.m., $10 per ticket. Got to run. And I want to say thank you very much to all of our guests today. Very interesting, especially Dr. Andrew Bostom, and of course Dr. History and all the others. And we'll be back here again tomorrow morning at 8:06 right here on KBAR 1230 and streaming live all over the universe on zebbell.com. And of course, we always say God bless you and your family, and remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.